Hi, pardon me if I seem a bit nervous. I think this might actually be the first time I've appeared on a large platform.
Oh, it's not that big. We're not Hassan or XQC. I'm sure we'll find a way to make it through. Howdy. Introduce yourself to chat. They're eagerly waiting to judge you. No pressure.
I am Annie. I hmm,
Wait, hold on. I was
apologies if
kidding. They're
there's
not.
a.
They're not judging. It's totally okay. I was kidding. I'm sorry. All is
I know
well. Yeah. Okay.
I'm actually reading the chat. I've been actually been watching the stream the whole time.
Oh,
And
nice.
thank you. And thank you, by the way, for the charitable introduction.
Yeah. We'll hopefully it keeps up. You know, I've got a long history of thinking that I'm gonna have a good conversation, but actually just getting into arguments.
Oh yeah, pronouns are she, her, since they've been asked.
Yeah, a few times. All
Do
right.
not read the chat.
Hit me up. Introduce yourself. Stop getting distracted by the chat, and let me know why you're here.
Okay. I am a. Yeah, I am a. I'm a writer, trans activist, and political commentator, or at least I consider myself those things. And I again apologies if there's a bit of a pause between some of my lines. I'm actually not really the best speaker. I'm a lot better at writing, actually. It's not just the anxiety, but just because I often need to figure out, think about just the right way I'm going to phrase things. But anyway, I think I should add for a bit of context that, yeah, that I, yes, that up until like a few months ago, I was actually a part of that whole woke school. Yeah, the whole group that you call woke scolds that really hated you because they've only seen you based on the clip. Since then I have actually started watching you, and I felt that you came across a lot more reasonable than, well, obviously a lot more reasonable than what a bunch of conveniently what I'm starting over.
No worries. I think I can
Then
infer what you're getting at, though, because I have heard it a lot. Yeah, I'd like to think that the Vaush industrial clip context, the clip chimp factories, don't really portray me in the best light.
yeah, it's yeah. I will say it's one thing. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of ironic that I fell for that because I have actually been a fan of ContraPoints for a while, although I have had my criticisms of her as well. It's, I've come to the conclusion that usually there, with a lot of bread tubers, there's a yeah, there is a small element of truth to some of the criticism, but it often gets blown out of proportion and, well, often clipped to a bunch of people who don't regularly watch their stuff and thus assume like a lot of negative things about them. I've noticed a lot of people who seem to have a really negative opinions of, well, both you and of ContraPoints, who have not seen any of her videos and specifically refuse to, based solely on the content of those clips. So I figured one of the reasons for this conversation would be to talk about a few of the areas where I do have genuine criticisms. So because I figure that if we do come to an agreement, it would be mutually beneficial for, well, all of us. A lot of the people who may have been more hesitant towards you will get to hear your actual positions, and I'd assume that if this goes well, you'd also have less people on your ass over these things. Is there anything else that?
No, no,
Anything else
I'm just giving you a wide berth. At the relative rates at which we speak, if I interrupted you every time I felt like hearing my own voice, I don't think you'd ever get a chance to speak. So I'm being cautious. No, with regards to that, no, I certainly agree with it. I want to hear your criticisms though, so I can either dispel them or give context to them or be utterly obliterated in the marketplace of, facts and ideas by you.
Okay. Okay. I guess the first place to start is since this was something that a mutual of mine actually requested I bring up. The I'm trying to remember what the user's name was. Someone that had a thread about supposed someone that had a thread about supposedly bad things that you have done or things you've gotten canceled over.
Mm-hmm. I've seen a few of those for sure.
I'm thinking it was at Heresy Labs, or let me see if I got the right name. I'm currently scrolling through my Twitter feed right now.
Oh, those lists always get reposted from person to person, so I don't know where the originator is. Do you remember what the specific criticism inside of it was that stuck with you?
Trying to think of. I mean, I was specifically asked to see if I could get some of your clarifications on some of the things. I mean, some of the things that were listed thus far. Yeah, that were listed are things that I've known you already addressed, but I guess just for clarity's sake, I'd like to ask what that whole thing with. Yeah, I've noticed there was a 6-second clip of you saying something about child porn legalization. I'd imagine there's more to that.
It's one of the default ones. Yeah, I'd say there's a little more context, a smidgen more. Probably pretty important stuff, I'd say, to understand the whole Vaush experience. Would you like me to elaborate?
Sure.
Okay. Basically, it frustrates me that there are a lot of people who are correctly very condemnatory and very antagonistic towards child sexual abuse in the States, but they don't seem to care that much about economic systems that harm children abroad. I mean, whether or not it's children is kind of arbitrary if we're talking about abuse, but I guess child abuse is worse because, they're kids. But, like, there are kids in slavery around the world, kids who are forced to work at 8 years old, just economic systems that we perpetuate when we spend money on goods that are made through those systems. So if you buy like a piece of electronics that was assembled in sweatshops or was produced with minerals that were mined by child slaves, it all comes together. Chocolate, cocoa butter, it's all sourced unethically. So the thing that bothered me was that there were people who were super blasé about this. Now, nobody's blasé about child sexual abuse. Like, I don't know, maybe there's some guy online who is, but nobody in the real world that matters is blasé about that. But the whole global capitalist harm thing, that people are very willing to just not care about, So anyway, essentially, I took the devil's advocate position. And I said, if you're not opposed to this one, then you can't be opposed to either. You have no morally consistent argument against the first, which does not include the last. Therefore, you're in favor of both. So argue me, you know, debate me. It was essentially a devil's argument tactic, which my genius brain did not realize that when you took video clips from it, it made it seem as though I was arguing in defense simply of the child sexual abuse, as opposed to against whatever central moral problems lead to the production of both. It's a bit of a tactical error, one might say, you know? Not a gamer move, a normie move on that one.
I think that is well said. There, I guess there, there were. While I do think that you addressed the whole Professor Flowers situation pretty well at the start, I actually did watch through the whole debate twice before, because there were a few. There were a few. I mean, I remember the first. It's something I've been kind of back and forth on, although I've started to come more so to the conclusion that with her, it's assuming that the positions that she says she's in favor of seem reasonable, but there were certain moments that make it look like she has some that, well, to say the least, don't make her look good. It's like specifically the ones that you've gone over, and I guess some of the issues I had with that debate are more so some of the specific arguments, like brought up the comparison to how of black on black crime to colonialism being a white problem. I do feel like there's a bit that's missed out on that, since at its heart, it's that while it's true that, I mean, well, for one, the whole thing about black on black crime being, crime being a black problem isn't even entirely accurate. It's just the crime that's being enforced. Like there's a lot of crime committed by rich billionaires, for example, that isn't reported, and that black areas are infamously over-policed. Now, I'd imagine that gang violence, in particular, is something that does tend to disproportionately affect people of color. But I think at the end of the day, if you were to ask more of them, if you were to ask each of these individual persons, they'd be against it and are only participating in it due to the fact that they do not have any other option. Meanwhile, and as for colonialism, while it isn't exclusively a white problem, I do feel like a lot of the worst. I do feel like, as with I do feel like it's mostly white people who tend to perpetuate a lot of the harmful effects of it. Like you see this where, you do see this where it's where it's mostly white people that tend to support pro-colonialist policies. And while those who are anti-colonialist are in the minority, so I'm not really entirely sure how apt that comparison is. Now, that being said, I do not share. That doesn't. So, I want to make it.
Well, I'd like to jump in if I can. It's about
sure.
It's about essentialization more than anything else. First of all, I don't think pretty much any Americans in America today are pro or anti-colonization, because that's not really a useful framework for dealing with the kinds of political issues they deal with. like being, it's not really like a pro or anti, like I honestly think like most Americans would be anti-colonization if asked about it, but don't even understand the systems at large, you know? The issue that I have is like, and when it comes to violent crime, like in America, it's well, I wouldn't say it's a black problem, but a person who wanted to essentialize it to race probably would. And they have, and I know because I've debated them. Now, with regards to the colonization thing, right? Colonization as a process is a worldwide phenomena which has existed for millennia, and it was not just white people doing it. Every group of people has done it to some other group at some point or another, you know? With the possible exception of what? The Romani? I don't know. I'm sure there were some ethnic groups who never came out on top, but for the most part, it's a pretty ubiquitous phenomena. The issue that I had was that Professor Flower's worldview was one in which colonizer and white person meant essentially the same thing, because she would describe any white person who lived in a colonized nation to be a colonizer, or if they benefit from colonization. But every country on Earth is either colonized or has benefited from colonization. That's literally every country on Earth. That's the dichotomy, right? It's the colonized and the colonizer. So it seems like no matter where in the world you are, if you're white, that makes you a colonizer in a worldview. To me, that's super unproductive, the essentialization of it to a racial trait. Because when you do that, you ignore the sociological issues that are actually causing these things, you know? It's not whiteness that made white people colonize the world back 300 or 400 years ago. It's a bunch of really complicated geopolitical social stuff. And it's not like most of the people who colonized were like pro-colonizers. A lot of it was just the Dutch or the English or the French shipping out for soldiers who were contracted to the crown, or farmers who were given plots of land. Like, they just went along with whatever their business opportunities were. Or, if they didn't do that, you know, they could be killed, the soldiers at least, depending on the circumstances. It's not like they went over there like gung-ho, ooh-wah, pro-colonization. Some of them did, I'm sure, but the issue is more complicated than that. So, I just took issue with the essentialization, much in the same way that you paint over a ton of complexity if you're just like, black people commit violent crime. Yeah, it's a black people problem, you know?
I might need to think for a bit to see if I have anything to really follow up with that. I'll admit I don't actually know much about. I don't actually know much about the issue myself,
It's
and to be
complicated.
honest, yeah, it is. And also, and also before I went into this call, I kind of had pictured myself having a much more thorough and well thought out response, but of course, now that I'm here, I'm just a stuttering mess and thus can't really communicate my ideas as well.
There's no shame in
So,
nerves. You know, I used to have a lot of nerves back when I was super young. I mean, obviously, I'm pretty good at public speaking now, but ye back, I remember. You don't need to be ashamed of it.
yeah, well, thank you. Um, and I guess there is I guess one other subject that I do see brought up a lot. There seems to be this sort of discourse basically every other week on Twitter. It's this whole, it's this whole reformed Nazi discourse about whether or not we should accept those who are reformed Nazis into our movement. And my whole position on this is that I myself have had. I mean, well, was never quite a Nazi, but back in like when Gamergate was happening, I was initially a rabid supporter of it. I mean, which of course I regret that. I regret that now, but I also know from that there were, from my own personal experience, that there were a lot of deeper rooted issues, a lot of deeper rooted issues involved in that led to me supporting that to begin with, and that I've needed to work out over time and come to terms with. And I think that a lot of the concern over yes, over reformed not over like people who are reformed Nazis is when they say that they've been reformed after like only like a year or so of been having been a Nazi, and whether or not they truly reflect on why they were at that point. Or and I think that a lot of the reason a lot of this concern comes is because I know that these is because at least the narrative that's posted around on Twitter is that a lot it's that your fans tend to often get lumped into this group, and I'd assume that given how often you've moved people from the right over toward towards your fan base, or just to the left in general, that some of them would have been influenced. And I guess the concern is that when you have most of these same types who are getting into a lot of arguments with these folks and being called woke scold, or having um this is why I usually need. I guess the concern is that if you have these types of folks who are often going after vocal people of color on Twitter, then there's something motivated by that. And it's not to say you can't criticize these types, but I guess if I guess it's just because I know from experience it takes a long time to detox from that shit. And if a lot of these people think that they're all good now after just a short time, then it could lead to them relapsing into some of their more toxic shit. And that's not to say they need to. That's not to say they need to hate themselves, but I think it's more so about finding a balance between self-reflection and also between self-reflection and also not being overly harsh on yourself. Because I often get the impression from some of these types that some of them may even be a bit insecure over the fact that they were formerly on the far right and are lashing out at those that don't accept them right away. Because
So, a couple of things to this. First of all, I guess I've always found the discourse on this a little bit weird because there's not really any such thing as the left. I mean, the left is broken up into thousands and thousands of different social spaces that are united towards common goals and with common values. So when people say, like, accepting former Nazis into the left, well, I can't accept former Nazis into other people's lefts. I can only really accept them into my community, which is a left community. And I don't think anyone else has the right to tell me not to do that. Because the point of them being brought in here is because I believe in the leftist value of reformative justice, you know? A lot of people who are Nazis were like 14 when they were. I know how the internet is. They may have been posting Jews will not replace us on poll like 3 months ago, but a lot of them were doing it out of some sort of, like brain dead contrarianism. If they move off of that quickly, I don't know how much of it means working through like real substantive internal issues and how much of it means just finding a better social circle and a couple better, like role models. When it comes to like the arguing with POC or whatever on Twitter, I mean, I guess I'm just really, really frustrated with how many people on the left seem to be opposed to the concept of reformative justice. It's supposed to be one of the things we're known for. And if you look historically, by the way, at union activists or labor organizers, or even like socialist militias, you'll find that a lot of them are full of people who were de-radicalized and then re-radicalized into those positions. a lot of those people were, if not fascists, which is a relatively contemporary political system, reactionaries, sometimes even monarchists of their time. Socialism gave them a new voice and a new cause to deal with old problems. Um, so I don't know. It seems like a lot of people on the left these days just want to cultivate some kind of pure social space where they don't have to worry about people they don't like joining it. But they're just joining my social space, right? If they try to jump in your community, I mean, you might have different standards for that sort of thing, and I suppose I think that's fine. I can't control it either way, so what I think about it's kind of irrelevant. We just need to be accepting of people who have changed their minds and moved on in. Uh, yeah, I don't know. A lot of this discourse presumes that these former Nazis will be harmful to the left, but in my mind, the people most harmful to the left are the people arguing against the idea people can change for the better. I mean, what do you think a former Nazi's going to do if the left doesn't accept them in? They're going to bounce back. I mean, if you de-radicalize or whatever, like, and the left accepts you, I mean, that's a strong incentive to keep moving left because you're in that community now. But if they reject you because you're morally impure, you know, you can bounce off to the center, to the far right. A lot of Nazis, you know, they tell each other, like, you know, uh, there's nothing for you but us. You're too fucked up now. Like, nobody else will take you. It's a cult mentality. We prove them right when we buy into that. I agree introspection's important. We have to give people room to grow and be respectful of the time it can take to change our minds and our feelings on some issues. But there are spaces that are good for that, like mine, because I'm a, you know, edgy boy. I don't think you should be sending off former Nazis into, like, cuddly ooh-woo transbian spaces or whatever, you know? Uh, that's probably a little less productive.
Okay, I think that is a fair assessment. Although although about now, I'm just kind of imagining that the mutual of mine who thought I was going to go in here and own you with facts and logic are a bit disappointed, but at the same time, I don't know what they were really expect. At the same time, I don't.
Nobody's done it yet.
I guess, fair.
I tease. You don't need to worry about it being an argument or nothing. It's towards the tail end of a sleepy stream anyhow. Now, I'm happy to hear your questions and such because I often get so caught up arguing with people on the left. I don't have any positive conversations with people who aren't already in my orbit. So it's something that I value either way.
I'm glad to hear that. I guess the reason why I say this is because I find myself often torn between torn between multiple factions of the left, like a lot of these same types that seem to absolutely despise you seem I've are types that I've become friends with and that I care about. So I feel like I'm kind of torn between two spots, and one of the reasons why I wanted to come in here was hopefully to promote a more mutual understanding between us. And so I guess part of what I'm worried is that I may not be arguing their concerns as effectively, but I'm sure. Yes,
Well,
and
I mean, to be honest with you, so you don't need to argue their concerns, only your own. If they've got concerns, they're free to email me. This does happen a lot, though. It's really easy to construct a negative image of a person if all you've seen of them is, you know, clip chimp snippets and stuff other people have said. But it's tough to talk with a person directly and still be angry with them. I've made that mistake a few times myself, you know. When arguing with people, heinous and not, when you construct images of people, significant, well-built images, like the kind of stuff that you would do for, say, a YouTuber or a live streamer, it's really easy to get a bunch of muck up in your head. When you actually do speak to them, it's so different from what you've perceived that whatever game plan you had going into it goes out the window. Um, did you have anything else in mind with regards to any concerns?
I feel like there's I do feel like there was one other thing that I was thinking of, but of course, I'm having that moment where, oh, I seem to have forgotten about it. It's, I'm sure most of us know how it is, where something's just on the tip of your tongue and you're trying to remember it.
Hey, if you want to talk about forgetting things, I just realized that my donation alerts have been off. And they've been off probably for weeks now. And I'm only just realizing that the OBS window has the little eyeball clicked off. So that's much worse than whatever you're doing right now. We told you days ago. Yeah, okay. Well, I didn't believe you. All right. They're back on. Oh, did you see that? Wait, chat, did you see that? We caught it right on the fade out from a dono. It must have been from YouTube. Did any of you see that? The ghost? I saw? Wait, did you? Yes? Okay, okay, some people did. Thank God. Okay, I thought I saw that. Okay. Sorry, we got distracted by a ghost of a gecko.
And, since I can't really think of, since I can't really think of anything else on this subject, I guess I can't really think of anything pertaining to, I guess one of the things that I have been kind of that I have found a bit concerning is, just in regards to that, I think there's a fair amount of concern in regards to is how some leftists seem to effectively deride Tumblr culture and performative quote unquote performative wokeness in a similar manner to in a similar man or I guess a manner that reminds some of us of how a lot of these reactionary right wingers do.
Yeah.
I guess
the term WOKESCOLD was actually made up by Ben Shapiro. I actually took that from him. So the parallel is not entirely undeserved. I get what you mean, though. I think I think there's a fine line here that's kind of tough to ride on, right? Because so when I lazily complain about Tumblr kids or whatever, a lot of it is because people from Tumblr are fucking annoying. And I know that because I was on Tumblr for years. I have absolute and full authority to make that claim. I wrote fan fiction on Tumblr. I posted art on Tumblr. I am rock solid in my belief in this. And it's a particular kind of being annoying. I don't think it's that special. I mean, there are other platforms that generate certain types of being fucking obnoxious, but with regards to the woke scold or the performative wokeness thing, I guess to me the issue is like the performativity more than anything, right? It's when it turns into gatekeeping. Like, I don't know. There's some stuff. I feel like the real thing is that a lot of conservatives are super disingenuous about it. You know what I mean? Like, trans people sometimes, because they're people, are going to be annoying. I mean, that happens to everyone. And when a trans person talks about trans stuff in a kind of annoying way, conservatives will quote tweet it or they'll screenshot it and make videos on it. And always it's like, look at how annoying this trans person is. But in reality, the conservative doesn't give a fuck that they're annoying. It's that they're trans and annoying. The them being annoying is only the honey that allows them to swallow the pill, and the pill is transphobia. Whereas when I criticize in similar ways, I try to make it actually about the behavior itself. Because I always feel like I'm commenting on or critiquing the behavior of minorities on my stream, but I don't try to, okay? When I see people on Twitter being stupid, I don't know what their race is unless they tell me or show it in their profile picture. invariably it's going to lead to a lot of them being minority groups because of how the left is. And optics lessons and basic advice on how to handle like certain types of information delivery, I don't think that's like I don't, I mean, that's something that everyone struggles with from time to time. I don't think there's anything wrong with making comments about that. It's just about like how to handle it, I guess. I have softened up a lot on the WOKESCOLD stuff right now, though. That's for sure. When I was like just starting out, they were the worst because they would misinterpret everything that I said, and it was really, really frustrating. Like I can get over it because I'm, uh, uh, doing okay in life. But there is something very existentially infuriating about one of the biggest rumors about you being that you're transphobic, when I fucking swear to God, if I could line up the people making that accusation of room, those fuckers are more transphobic than me. I swear 98% of the time, I don't care if they're trans, they're still I am so much I am so doggedly in favor of these ideas, but it's very frustrating to hear them misrepresented from people who don't like the fact that I'm white, or they don't like that I'm a guy, or they are oversensitive and they think that my deep baritone voice means that I'm abusing them every time I talk in a stern tone. Um, but yeah, like it's mostly just an irritation thing. I don't think it's that much of an issue anymore. If anything, it feels like the worst discourse in the online left now is the Jimmy Dore group, right? It's got to be the Dorites. It's like it's them, it's tankies, big overlap there, and then it's the woke skulls. And I feel like right now it's the Jimmy Dore types that are by far the most. Uh, I'm sorry, this isn't even related. I'll stop talking.
Oh yeah, well, I'm kind of in agreement regarding the Jimmy Dore types and the tankies. So, so I think we're on the same page in that one.
Yeah, there's a pretty big overlap between the two of them too. They're consolidating. Oh god.
Well, I guess just to kind of bring up a specific. I mean, now that I think about it, I think some of the most egregious examples that stick out are that tend to stick out aren't of the whole. I mean, of basically of the whole woke scold versus debate bro dynamic. You know, the two genders. It's. I mean, I think one of the specific posts that sticks out in my mind was actually something actually because Xander Hall quote tweeted a mutual of mine, and again, I'll admit I have not really seen any of his stuff. I mean, so I don't know how he is in person, but he said something to the effect of this person looks like the exact stereotype of a leftist that collects mental illnesses in their bio like it's a hobby of theirs, or something towards that effect, that seemed less like it was a criticism of them and more so just bringing up the fact that they're disabled, which I'm like not really sure what the point of that is. It's
Was that
just
was that Xander Hall? Because that does sound word for word like something Destiny would tweet. Chat, do you have that tweet? They'll find it if they find it. No, I think yeah, I think that does sound like something Xander Hall could also tweet though, I guess. So it's not exactly entirely out of the realm of possibility. Um yeah, I don't know. It's pretty performatively edgy. I think that Zan gets a little bit too far down in the weeds with the woke scold types, which can lead to stuff like that, I guess. I mean, I've said some pretty edgy stuff myself, in line with that behavior. I just, well, it's like a utilitarian thing, right? Maybe you make that criticism and maybe it's like spot on. You know what I mean? Maybe they are that type of person. But the benefit that you get from accurately making that criticism feels like it's outweighed by the overwhelmingly more likely possibility that you're, stereotype grouping. or like enabling pretty bad biases against the group. It seems like a pretty bad roll of the dice, you know? The there is a type of person like that I'm frustrated by, but I think you have to be pretty specific, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, wait, what'd you say the name of that Twitter person was? Was it Heresy Labs?
Oh, yeah, the one who had made the thread on you. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, it just popped up at the top of the Google search results while I was looking for Xander Hall's tweet. Maybe found it? Oh, let me find, hold on. Oh, yeah, here we go. Holy shit, this person is the actual Twitter lefty meme of collecting identities and mental disorders in the bio Lamau. And is the tweet deleted? Oh, do they have me blocked? They have me blocked, don't they? No, they don't. Oh, wait. I blocked them. Annie, I have blocked
Yes?
very few people on the left on Twitter. Very, very few. Do you have any idea what this friend of yours might have done to have warranted that?
Mm. I mean, are you talking about Heresy Labs or the other person?
No, the other person, the Flame Panda 87.
Uh,
Oh, they tweet a lot. I don't know. I might be looking for a while before I find anything here. It's a let's say I forgive them. I banned a lot of lefties during the Kink at Pride arc. It probably is that. That's probably like 90%. Oh wait, here's them bragging about being blocked. Oh, hold on.
Well, to be fair, in their defense, did I did brag about being blocked by Shu and Xander Hall a while back. So
okay, to be fair, getting blocked by Shoe on Head is as simple as not enthusiastically licking her balls in the replies. You know what I mean? That's an easy one to get. Like, okay, hold on, wait. I'm gonna one last ditch effort. Hold on to see if I can find it. I don't know how often Zan blocks. I'm just curious, by the way. I'm not here to lead like a public crusade against this person. I'm curious. God damn, why am I so bad at typing? Yeah, I can't find anything. Nah, it's okay. Anyway, the quote tweet. I didn't even see. Is the quote tweet warranted? Let me see. Not saying anything out loud. I don't know. It seems a little bit unwarranted. It seems fairly unwarranted. My ruling on this is that Zan was mad. That might have to be my ruling. I don't know. I can't get that mad at like the WOKESCOLD stuff anymore too, especially as I get larger, because it feels like they don't have any like big representatives, you know? When I think of like, is my life made worse by any like big WOKESCOLD content creators? Like, who can I think of? Lily Orchard kind of fits the archetype, but is also not, just doesn't affect me in any way. Thought Slime? Like, I don't know. But then if I think of like Tankies and Jimmy Dore types, I can literally list out like massive content creators that have shit talked me. So I don't know. Seems like a more appropriate direction of my antagonism. Sorry, this is also has nothing to do with what you said. I'm so sorry. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm hungry. It's
I mean, it's okay. I'm never opposed to taking the piss out of Jimmy Dore stands.
Yeah, he's a fucking goober. We'll get that debate one of these days, folks. It won't mean anything because he'll just shout over me the whole time. Literally, just an unbroken, unceasing 98 decibel whine over which nothing will be able to be understood. But you know, it'll be a good time. I'll bring earplugs. Well, I have to finish reading Dono soon. I'm sure that in your head you're thinking, "Oh, I forgot the kill shot." But the truth is there never was any. I was armored all over. You saw the gap between the helmet and the collar, but it was actually just I'm wearing an armored choker as well. That'd be hot.
Yeah. I think there is actually one last thing I'd like to say that doesn't actually pertain to any of this. Doesn't actually pertain to any of this discourse. But it's. I'll just. I mean, I guess it's just like to. Actually, did you? By any chance, did you read that one political piece I wrote that I linked?
Um, was that with your initial email?
I Well, it was in one of the follow-ups. I mentioned it as an aside.
I probably did not
I
then,
just
no. I have a long reading list that I curate from emails, but I'm afraid that it's probably like dozens or even hundreds deep at this point.
okay. I just mentioned this because, I mean, if I recall correctly, wait,
From the
would it
Guardian
count as
Acorn?
doc? Oh yeah, it's my site there.
Wait, this is your site?
It, oh, my blog, yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
It, yeah, I mean, as an aside,
Holy fuck, you love
if
typing.
you're,
Jesus Christ. There's so many words. How could any human ever type this much? Jesus, I guess this explains your first email to me.
yep.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you to shout out your writing anyway, so I guess this is kind of convenient then.
Yeah. Well, but
Holy
and
fuck.
a question.
Oh, no, please continue, yes.
Yes, would mention. I mean, would it count as doxing you if I asked you, would knowing what city you live in because a wiki listed it? I mean, is that pub? I mean, is
Oh
that
no,
like public knowledge?
I live in Seattle. I shared my shopping plans earlier today.
Okay. I just mentioned that because my 2020 election piece literally opens with with a bunch of candidates who are running in Seattle, and well, I do figure it's something that you'd certainly be interested. Especially, I definitely suggest looking up Nicole Thomas Kennedy. She's an abolitionist who's running for Seattle city attorney, and I mean, yes, and right now she seems to be running a very strong grassroots campaign, and they're trying to give her the Nina Turner treatment.
Yeah, I can give it a look for sure. I I have a long flight tomorrow. Well,
Okay.
here, I'll link it in chat. Hold on. Oh wait, somebody already linked it in chat. I was too slow. I appreciate you coming on.
Well, well, I'm glad this. It seems to have. I mean, this does seem to have gone well. Yeah.
Of course. Well, you have a wonderful day. I hope you were paying attention to the uncritical adoration chat was affording you the entire time, as is their prerogative, you know. They're happy that you reviewed Wario Land, which is a game that I played in my childhood and never have since. So
Yep.
one of these days I'll get around to it. Anyway, thank you for coming on. Good luck with your writing, and again, have a wonderful evening.
Okay. Thanks. You too.
Bye bye.